Well, good evening. How is everybody this evening? Good. I think we're ready to get started. We'll start right on time. It is 5:30 on the dot, and it's good to see everyone here tonight. So welcome to the Nampa City Council meeting. And as everyone knows that's a regular, in Nampa we open in prayer and the pledge before every meeting. And we are so thrilled tonight to have Pastor Tony Johnson. He's with Nampa First Church and the Nampa Care House in partnership. And Tony, thank you for opening us in prayer. We appreciate it. Let's stand.
I don't know about your lives over the last 2 years as we've come out of COVID, but that I've faced and gone through, and often turned to Scripture to try and give me direction. Part of it this last year was walking through the book of Proverbs to find out what makes a good leader. But even in the midst of that, I was brought to Philippians chapter 2, in guiding me in what it means for me to be a good leader. If there's any encouragement in Christ, any comfort in love, any sharing in the Spirit, any sympathy, complete my joy by thinking the same way, having the same love, being united and agreeing with each other. Don't do anything for selfish purposes, but with humility think of others as better than yourself. And instead of each person watching out for their own good, watch out for the better of others, and adopt the attitude that was in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not consider being equal with God something to be exploited, but emptied himself for us. Let us pray. We thank you, God, for these men and women and their willingness to serve, their willingness to step into a role that oftentimes gives them little appreciation and lots of complaints. And yet, they make the sacrifices needed to bring about your best in our community. And so, Father, we thank you for them. We thank you for their leadership. We thank you for the wisdom and insight you have given them as they have led our good city. Lord, we pray you continue to bless their marriages and their families with your grace and your goodness, your health and your protection. You know the various situations and challenges that they are facing, especially with loved ones that are battling various health situations. And I pray that you would be their healer, their comforter, and their strength in those situations. Fathers, as these women and men work together, may they heed the guidance of your word so that they make their decisions for our community that honor you, do justice for all of your beloved children. And no matter their language, no matter the color of their skin, no matter their social or economic situation, may they seek to do what is best for all in our community. May they be quick to listen, even if it's uncomfortable or the person is disagreeable. May they be slow to speak and even slower to become emotional or angry. May they remember that having a little with righteousness is better than having great profits, even for our city, without justice for all. May they remember the gracious words are pure to the ears of the Father. May your integrity and your character be made real in them and the decisions that they make on behalf of our community. And Lord, may they continue to honor, and may you continue to honor and bless our mayor, our council, and our city, especially as we choose to bless you in our words, in our actions, and how we live in relationship with one another. May we truly be a community that demonstrates love for you and love for our neighbor in all that we do and all we stand for. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and that by the power of your Spirit, it be done. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Tony, thank you for that wonderful prayer.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for all your service.
Thank
I know
you.
that you've just opened, or in the process of building a new building.
We are building a new facility for the Care House Partnerships Food Bank. Yes, we are.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is exciting.
The need is growing, and we're just thankful that we're in a place that we would be able to meet the growing need of those of the workforce population and those in the lower social economic situation of our community.
Yeah.
We're blessed.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you, and thank you for your partnerships across the community. It's wonderful.
Yes,
So
thank you. We're glad we can do it.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, let's begin our evening with roll call.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Bruner.
Here.
Jangula.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haverfield.
Here.
All present.
I am not aware of any proposed amendments to the agenda, and I would ask our council if you have any proposed amendments for the agenda tonight. Is there anything you need pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, with that, I would stand for a motion to approve the agenda as it's stated.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And the consent agenda, I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, so moving on to proclamations. We don't have any proclamations this evening, and but we do have the public forum, as we typically do. This is an opportunity for Nampa residents to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item. Do we have anyone signed up this evening?
Madam Mayor, we do have several people signed up. Our first speaker is Christian Case on a non-agenda item.
Okay. And our next person, just to be ready to go, is,
That person is Raymond Shepard on an agenda item.
okay, good evening, Christian.
Good evening, Mayor Kling and Council. I'm Christian Case at 435 Arrowhead Drive, Nampa, Idaho. And some friends just asked me to relate a request that you put a light at 12th Avenue Road and Locust. They are so concerned about that dangerous intersection that they go around it and find other ways to get around rather than go through that intersection. It's just so dangerous. So I'm just relaying that to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let your friend know that that is in the planning stages, has been for quite some time, and I don't remember its time frame. Crystal, normally we don't comment, but just because the public may be interested.
It's currently in design and we're procuring the right-of-way for it right now. It's slated to go in fiscal year '27, but we're working to advance it to '25.
Thank you very much, Crystal.
Thank you. You have a wise friend to avoid it. Good for them. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Raymond Shepard on an agenda item.
Good evening, Raymond.
Good evening, Mayor Kling and the rest of the City Council. I'm not speaking tonight as a representative for the Carpenters Union, but rather just a citizen of the City of Napa.
Madam Mayor,
Yes. Address.
111 North Chaparral Street, Napa, Idaho, 83651. So under new business, there's two items that I just have questions that I'd like to ask through the chair. I know I can't ask questions directly to the City Council, but maybe they could come up under the new business order. Right, the first one is 7.2. The action items authorizing mayor to sign a state grant agreement with the city resolution for state grant airport aid program, the state match for the FAA Airport Improvement Program, AIP 38, approved by City Attorney Joe Borton, approved in FY23 budget. My simple question through the chair or to the attorney or to the City Council is, if I'm reading this correctly, it's some of the FFA federal grant money for the airports in consolidation with grant money from the state to be in kind of like a collaboration for the Napa Airport?
I tell you, I would defer to Crystal Craig. So sitting right over there, if you can wave. So Crystal could answer that question for you, because we typically don't answer the question from the bench right now. I just
Right.
did that. But yes, Crystal could answer that question for
Okay,
you.
when it comes up under new business, right?
Okay, that would be great. Yes. So Crystal, thank you for making
Okay.
note of it, and thank you.
Yeah, and the second one is under new business 7.3, action item authorizes staff to proceed with the request for proposals for architectural services for the airport terminal building design. And Mr. Haberfield, I do not mean this in any disrespect at all whatsoever, right? But just as a point of information, right? The question through the chair or through the rest of the city council or somebody else, will your firm be bidding on that project?
So thank you.
Okay,
We will
simple.
also address that.
Okay.
So, and that he's actually, technically, I will say, just to answer it, he's not allowed to as a council member.
Okay,
So
cool.
he's not allowed to. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raven.
Madam Mayor, we do not have any other speakers.
Okay. Is there anyone that had intended to sign up this evening? Seeing none, we will move to agency and commission reports, of which we have none. So our next item is our staff communications. Rodney Ashby, our planning and zoning third quarter density report, followed by Tom Points with our public works. So if I don't see Tom, you're doing it, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the record, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. Oh, I forgot the clicker. This should be a pretty quick report. So here's the preliminary plats in the last 12 months. And a little closer view of the northern portion. And then a closer view of the southern portion. And here's the breakdown of each of those. This is significantly less units approved by this time last year. In 2022, just for your information, 331 multifamily units and 1,858 single-family residential units had been approved in the previous 12 months.
So we are less
Whoops.
than, multifamily again was what?
Multifamily was 331,
Wow. So considerable difference by this time.
considerable difference, and then just single-family was 1,858.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that to put us in perspective.
Yep. And then here's the final plats. So these are, again, these are ones that you'd see pretty soon compared to the preliminary plats. To the north, to the south, and then here's that breakdown. Again, we have approved far less final plat residential units this year than the previous year. This time last year, 88 multifamily units and 1,612 single-family units had been approved through final plats in the previous 12 months. And then short plats, pretty simple. We only had those two. And in 2022, quarter three, we had approved 66 multifamily units and 8 single-family units through the short plat process in the previous 12 months. So again, you can see those same trends we've seen for a while. We're growing to the north pretty significantly, and then on the final plats to the southeast a little more than we have in the past. We've been growing a little more to the west, but this last 12 months shows that we're growing to the east, southeast as well. Any questions for me?
Council, do you have any questions? Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for that update.
And I should have just said we're trying to do a more detailed, thorough report in this next quarter. We've done that in the past, but we're going to provide a little more detail than we have before. So I think there's some interesting data that you'll see the next time I do this density report.
Thank you. And you know what? It'd be nice in the next one to go ahead and put the trend, right, where you told us what it was 12 months ago or in 22, but it would be nice to see that written down. So we didn't have to, I mean, I was just looking at the screen. But
Oh, yeah.
put that in this, the
Yep,
comparison.
will do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great job. Thank you so much. Okay, Jeff Barnes. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Couple of staff report items from our Public Works Department. First, just a quick update on our wastewater expansion project going on. This is, when we first started it, you go through a lot of material every council meeting looking at the packets. So we do have an exhaustive project summary every month that comes out, but we created a 3-page summary. So this, we have walked through the whole project, giving you brief updates. So a couple of things off this. They did their 500,000th work hour. They had a barbecue this week and kind of honored the staff. But the site is taking shape. We're about 80% done with construction, and we are very close to that original dollar amount. We received a $3 million grant in the process, which helped. I wanted to show you this quickly. So when we first started doing the 3-page summary, this was a rendering. And you look at a lot of the buildings on here are just 3D images. But I want to show you now, if you can just look at that sheet and now look at, this is your actual construction. And so things are now well underway. And you look at the bottom of your screen there, that is the final, what they call tertiary treatment process. There's a huge sand filter, and the sand is coming into the site right now, which they're going to drop it into those containers on your right-hand side. And then there is the UV portion of it and a pump facility on the left-hand side. That just gives you an idea of some of the progress we're making. So if you have any questions, we do plan on giving some tours coming up as we get farther in. They're getting much more interesting because a lot of the equipment is showing up. The second thing I have is we, for years, have had a design review committee. And so Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, Councilman Bruner, you have been core members of that. Thank you for your service on that. I always say we're on, I think, our 27th meeting, and they're not just small meetings. They're probably 50 PowerPoint slide technical meetings. So they got us to this point. That design review committee was meant to steer this project. And the success we have in this project is because of that DRC, really. A lot of the decisions that were made were excellent. But it's over officially, and so now we are putting into place a new committee, and we're calling it a Nampa Water Renewal Committee. We're going to talk more about that in the future, that name. But the Nampa Water Renewal Committee was kind of born out of that same kind of design of the Design Review Committee. We have city council members. We have representatives from industry in our community. We have citizen representatives. And so the statement of purpose and function is in the agenda and the packet, but we're going to be covering things like headworks coming up, the design of large-scale improvements, funding, how to strategically get ahead of this, especially looking at the expense of our wastewater treatment plant. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have, or there's it.
Jeff, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Council, do you have any questions?
I do, Mayor.
Yes.
So did I hear you had a barbecue and didn't invite any of us? Oh, Jacobs did, huh?
Jacobs did, yes.
Okay, never mind.
It is pretty exciting. 500,000 hours.
100,000, and we
Wow.
talked about this, but there has been one minor injury. So really, they have been safe. This is complex stuff with a lot of concrete, a lot of heavy equipment. So that's impressive.
Nice.
Amazing work. Great team. Exciting time. Jeff, thank you. Great job. Thank you so much. Okay, that concludes our staff communications. We're going to move into new business, and our first new business item is an action item, and this is to authorize no parking signs for a 10-foot section on the south side of Constitution Way adjacent to the Harvard Rec Center. Daniel's welcome to come forward.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions for Daniel before we move on and approve? I believe this was requested by a citizen, and it's for safety purposes. And as you can see, there's a little arrow right there where there is a sidewalk. And it's to prevent someone from parking right in front of that sidewalk so that people can actually get up to the sidewalk, which I think is a really good idea, actually. So,
Madam Mayor, I have
yes.
a question for Daniel.
Thank you. Yes.
Daniel, is there ever a plan to put, continue the sidewalk down Constitution Way on both sides at some point? I know they're gonna develop the old St. Al's site. Will either side of that have sidewalk, curb and gutter?
At the time that that redevelops, the actual lots that are adjacent to that, they would be required to install sidewalk. I believe at the time the rec center was originally put in, the idea was that the pathway that you see there functions as the sidewalk for that side of Constitution. That's certainly something that we could consider doing along the rec center property, but it's not something that I believe has been requested as a budget, anything at this point.
Okay, and what's that road classified as?
That's a local roadway.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, there has been a motion and a second to authorize the no parking sign. Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
We're going to move to 7.2, and Crystal, thank you for making your way up. This is an action item. It's to authorize the mayor to sign the state grant agreement and the city resolution for state grant program aid program F24BS868, state match for FAA Airport Improvement Program, AIP 38, was approved by City Attorney Joe Borton and approved in the FY23 budget. And Crystal, thank you for coming forward and answering the question.
Absolutely. Mayor, council members, so this is basically a project closeout. This was our AIP yearly project that we had. It was to install some fence on the southeast portion of the airport, kind of around the runway. There's some cows that like to get loose over there and wreak some chaos for us. So this is just approval to pay our 5% match and close the project out. The fence has already been installed. Typically, how the FAA funding works is they come with 90% of the funding, and then the state, so ITD specifically, gives us 5%, and then we are on the hook for the other remaining 5%.
Which is a pretty good deal.
Yes.
For us.
We're very, very thankful for the funding opportunities and the grants from them.
Thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions for Crystal? Crystal, thank you. And if there are any other questions, our citizen could speak to you directly. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, what is the action that council desires?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the state grant as referenced. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.3 is an action item, and this is to authorize staff to proceed with a request for proposals for architectural services for the airport terminal building design. Crystal, thank you for staying put.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So this grant, or this is just a request for us to move into design services. So we have applied through the BIL program for the last 2 years to get a new terminal building. Both years have been unsuccessful, unfortunately. Some of the feedback that we received from the FAA caused us to do a complete redesign and rethink of what type of building that we would like. So we are going to move forward, hopefully if we get funding, with this prefab steel structure as opposed to a building made from scratch, so to speak. Another thing that the FAA told us would make us more marketable in getting this grant is if we had already started the design process or had a design in process, so that when they give us the money, fingers crossed, we could hit the ground and have a shovel-ready project. So City Council in fiscal year 22 gave $250,000 that went into the airport fund for the Houston terminal, did the same thing in 2023. So there's $500,000 sitting for use for the terminal. So we are requesting to use $250,000 of that to move forward to solicit a design contract for that type of building.
Thank you for explaining that. Council, do you have any questions of Crystal? Councilman Haverfield?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Crystal, excuse me. So the request, what all, as far as in the AE services, are you expecting that money to cover? Just concept through design development, all the way through working drawings? What is the anticipation as far as on the selection?
So we're going to ask for a not to exceed amount of $250,000 to get us as far as possible. At minimum through concept we would like, but if we can get farther into some good engineering drawings and things like that that we could submit and use for our future applications. That's our goal.
So if I were to understand what you're saying, then you're looking for whoever you select to be able to provide a level of service that gives you that path to go down.
That's correct, Councilman.
Okay. The only thing that I thought about when I saw this, and I mentioned it to the mayor, is normally I've seen at least an effort on the part of the owner or the entity that's asking for the service, that there is some definition as far as what that needs to be, not just an open-ended piece of paper that, or blank piece of paper that says, what do you think we should do? So I didn't know if it made sense, and this would be something that I would ask the mayor maybe to weigh in on, to put together a small committee or a task force to look at what you're trying to accomplish, determine what a guaranteed maximum would be for the full construction of the building as well. As mentioned earlier, I'm not going to be participating, obviously, in any design effort financially as far as on behalf of the city. I can't do that. But I would be willing to sit in on a committee to help the effort of putting together the scope of work, the maybe initial design concepts, trying to curb or at least give some definition before you ask them to come up with something. It's awfully nice to have, from my perspective, something that's been given to me as a thought process that's already been developed by my client so that I know kind of where they're going. And so the initial effort is to just conceptualize that and put it into a concept plan. So I didn't know if you thought about having a committee help you with the design of this. I know, and I mentioned it to the Mayor Public Works Department in Boise State University, there's several larger entities that have their own architects on staff. We don't have that here. But maybe putting the minds together, like we do with the design review of the, or the committee that for wastewater treatment, that it's been a good effort and helps us move forward without any cost to come up with something and then have the design professional weighed in, and there's less money being spent on their part. So I don't know if that was something that would be, you'd be open to doing. This is just kind of an open concept to begin with, so that's why I was asking.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, we would absolutely love and welcome a committee and people's participation in this. I'm a road person, right? I don't do buildings quite as much, and we've relied pretty heavily on our facilities department, which has been great, and we've been able to provide like a list of wants and a list of needs from a project like this. But as far as actual design layout or the best way to, design the building to facilitate, better light or better views and things like that, we would welcome from a committee standpoint and moving forward so we can spend money wisely.
Yeah, I think that's my main thought. My thesis was on an airport terminal design, so it's kind of funny that this would come forward, but
Thank you for
so
volunteering.
I'm willing to be of assistance to you if needed.
Absolutely.
And my guess is Councilman Reynolds would offer also to be of assistance?
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. And Madam Mayor, I have one question. So Crystal, would you be writing a detailed RFP for the, what you're asking for the architectural services?
Councilman Reynolds, we would let facilities lead it, so if it needed to go out for an RFP, then yes. I don't know what their bounds are as far as stipulations, so we would just ask for a not to exceed amount of $250, and if that meant RFP, we'd do it that way. If that was a direct select, we would do it that way. I'm not familiar with their regulations, sorry.
Yeah, if you have a detailed RFP, it's typical procedure, then you'll take proposals, and there's a good chance you can get all your design done well within your budget. And a good architect will help you put that budget together almost to the T.
Perfect.
I think you have some wonderful help being offered here,
Seems
so
very excited.
thank you for taking advantage of that. And if we need to just put together a small subcommittee with a citizen or two, or just use the counsel of these guys. I see someone waving their hand out there, so there we go. Thank you, yes.
I have a question for Randy. Randy, you said that my client is involved in this?
Mic on.
Sorry. You said that your client is involved in this?
I said that?
Yes. Do
No,
you
I
have
don't
a
think I
client
said
that's
anything
involved in
about-
this stuff?
No, I said, if I have a client
Oh, I see, okay.
on a project, it's nice that they've spent some time up front kind of visualizing what they would like. That way I'm not just going from a blank slate.
Okay, thank you. Perfect
yeah.
clarification.
So I was going to ask a question, but he kind of threw me off of the mayor. But back to the process, I think, are you just looking at selecting a group of architectural firms off of the select committee or that select group?
Councilman Haverfield, that would be the plan, yes.
Okay. Just knowing who's on that list, I know a couple of them do quite a bit of airport terminal type work. So there'd be some good ones there. There might be some that would be reaching to try to do something as credible as maybe the others, but I think that's the part of the process that you'll vet that out.
Perfect.
Mayor,
Thank
you know, I'm
Liz.
always curious. So, Councilman Haverfield, when you did your thesis, was that the Orville Wright timeline?
No, that actually was into the 60s, no.
Thank you.
It was in 84.
Okay, so
Sorry.
how would the council like to proceed on this particular item?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to proceed with a request for proposals. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, just for definition, then what will you be doing as far as putting together a group of people to help aid? Will it be after you select a firm or after you receive the proposals? Do you need help as far as in the vetting of the proposals? Someone to look at that from that standpoint as well? I think that would be something that Dale and I both would be capable of helping you with.
I would like to recommend that the committee does both before, when you're framing it, and after in selecting it. And that's how we have functioned within our wastewater treatment plant. And I think I would suggest that we frame something similar.
Mayor,
Which is pretty
Councilman
easy.
Haverfield, that will be our plan moving forward. We'll get the committee together first and then come up with a RFP and then select.
Okay.
And we can do it pretty quick, I think. Great. Thank you. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes?
Brunner.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.4. Crystal, you get to stand here for a while. Okay, item 7.4 is to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign a task order with the Ørsted to provide, it's Ørsted Architectural or Engineering, I'm not sure, but to provide design, survey, and engineer of record services for the Streets Division Building Expansion Project in the amount of $162,820, time and material not to exceed. They've used a standard agreement approved by legal, and it is approved in the FY24 budget.
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
So Crystal, looking at the proposals that were received, this is a full-service architectural involvement. So they're going to cover civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, full. Are they also going to be aiding you as far as with the EPA notice, as far as any asbestos removal necessary? Will they be aiding you in all of that entitlement work?
Councilman Haverfield, the intent of this design was to be full service and turnkey.
Okay.
So from this, we will be able to move straight into construction.
So this is a guaranteed maximum not to exceed? Okay, even if there's something unforeseen that might be found?
I would have to look at the contracts again after they're drawn up, but yes, that's how I believe it was written.
So again, I'd be interested in looking at those contracts to help you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.5 is an action item to authorize the Public Works to partner with Compass for their Thriving Communities grant application and authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support and commitment for the project.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.6 is an action item. This is to award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract for the annual pump maintenance FY24 project with Riverside in the amount of $358,980. And standard bid docs were approved by legal, and it is approved in the FY24 budget. And Daniel, thank you for coming forward to answer the questions.
Yes. So, Mayor, this is a standard annual bid that we do every year. We had two bidders on the project. Lane of Idaho and Riverside. Lane of Idaho was the apparent low bidder. There were some irregularities with the bids. Specifically, there was one section regarding a certification for not dealing with China and support for Israel that neither contractor signed. However, in talking to legal, that's something that's required in the actual contract document, the contract with them. And so that's something that we can have them sign with the contract, whoever we award to. The second item was that in one of the addendums, there was a bid schedule change from a 30-horse pump to a 40-horse pump. While both contractors did acknowledge all four addendums, Lane of Idaho, the bid schedule they submitted showed the 30-horse pump still rather than the 40-horse pump. And so based on that and in reviewing it with legal, we determined that we would recommend for the bid award to Lane or to Riverside rather than Lane. On the bench is an email we received from Lane requesting that they be allowed to have the bid awarded to them. The cost difference between the two bids is just under, just around $26,000 difference between the two bids. Engineering, as we look at that, we recommended that we award to Riverside. We would like to proceed with this based on the timing. These are irrigation pumps for the most part, and we try to get them done outside of irrigation season to minimize the impact to the public on the system, and would request your decision on whether you would want to award to Riverside or Lane, and would stand for any questions.
Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor.
Yes.
I had a discussion with Daniel prior to the meeting, to just give him my thoughts. I read through this carefully 2 or 3 times, and the letter from JB, neither party that submitted bids followed the bid process to the T. And in a public works bidding process, that's paramount. And if it's not, I've had bids thrown out for not dotting an I. I mean, it's just, this to me is neither one of them followed the bid process to a T, and they both should be rejected. And I understand you don't want to wait for your materials, but I feel like we should put this back out in the best interest of Nampa.
And Mayor, Councilman Reynolds, I recognize that neither did, they both made errors on their bid. Our bid language and the contract documents allow us to waive minor irregularities in the bid. The lack of the signature on the certification for the China and Israel stuff, where it can be handled in the contract itself, we feel, and we discussed with legal, that would qualify as a minor irregularity that we can waive if we so choose. I think from our standpoint in the Public Works Department, the loss of the months and the potential impacts to the citizens having irrigation stations down during the season, in our opinion, would warrant a waiver of that irregularity, but ultimately that is the council's choice.
Madam Mayor, follow up?
Yes.
So do you think it really would take 2 months to put it back out on the street where you already have, you could condense your addendums where you know the items that need to be addressed, send out the RFP again immediately and schedule a bid date?
So we have to publish it in the paper. So publishing it in the paper and taking it to bid is typically it takes us about 5 weeks total for that, and then getting it back on the council's agenda for award. We sit around 2 months from the time we actually start to publish till we get it back to council. And so that is the time frame it takes us.
Madam Mayor, a question for Councilman Reynolds. So for what do you think would incentivize other companies to proceed with a bid if a new RFP is put out?
I don't think it's going to incentivize anybody new. I think we're going to get the same bidders, but I think they're going to have their bid form correct.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm just wondering what the benefit of that would be. I understand we want things right.
Right.
And we would like to make an example, but if it's going to delay this, if there's not another bidder out there, it's going to come in lower and do it perfectly. I don't understand quite what the benefit would be.
There could be, but the biggest issue is I look at it whether it's defensible or not. And from a contract standpoint, it's not defensible. I can tell you that from experience.
No, I trust exactly what you're saying. I'm just wondering what the advantage would be down the road to delay this.
So, and then also, it's $26,000. That's a big chunk of money. And $26,000, they both know each other's number now.
Yeah.
And they're going to come back. They're going to probably be within pennies of each other, but it's going to save the city $26,000.
So, Madam Mayor, Daniel, follow if I may. So Lane is 26,000 under?
Yes, and that ultimately, the staff's recommendation and the consultant would be to award to Riverside. However, it is certainly within your prerogative to award to Lane if you so choose.
So, I mean, because this is 30/40, and I know not this terminology whatsoever, so I'm going to sound very, very ignorant, which I am on this subject matter. So, would Lane, did they want to increase their bid, or are they going to hold it as true?
So, based on the email that we received from them, they said that their bid, their number that they provided, included the 40 horse, even though the schedule was not the correct one.
So, Madam Mayor,
so they are not asking for an increase in their bid, and would still be providing the 40.
Okay, so final question, Mayor, if I may then. So if both of these bids were not done properly, and we have one bidder that's $26,000 under the other, I don't understand why we're not recommending to go with Lane unless there's some other challenges we have with Lane.
So, no, there are not other challenges we have with Lane. From the engineering standpoint, as we reviewed the bids, the not having the correct bid schedule, we did not feel as I can't remember exactly the terminology, as a non-material discrepancy, whereas the lack of a signature that we get in the contract, we felt was a non-material discrepancy. However, ultimately, it's the council's choice whether you feel that is a non-material discrepancy. If you do, you're well within the bounds to award to Lane.
Mayor, I'm going to move this along.
And I think, please pause. Yes, we did. Councilman Haverfield has been waiting.
Thanks.
I was just going to give an example, actually two examples of other projects that I've been involved with that are public projects. One for the city of Fruitland where we rebid just because of a technicality like this, and still had the same number of bidders, but we ended up with a lower number because they kind of knew what they were competing against. But just to make sure that we were going the high road and there wasn't any potential for it to come back with litigation, that was the choice that was made there. Same thing happened with the Kuna Rural Fire District, the project that I'd worked on over there. There was a small discrepancy, but enough that legal said, let's just rebid it. So we rebid both of those projects. They both come in less than what the original bids were with the same bidders. So I guess I follow along with what Dale's saying. I just think that we need to move down the path of least resistance and less liability, and that's to rebid the project, however long it takes. I'm sorry that we're dealing with an irrigation district as well. That's kind of the complication of this, so I can kind of see both sides, what Daniel's talking about, but the reality behind it, I just think that if we award it back to Lane now, Riverside could potentially come back after the city in litigation. So either way.
Mayor, is Todd online?
Todd is online.
I'm online.
I would like his legal opinion on this as far as litigation from Riverside or whatever.
So, Mayor and council members, Daniel was correct. Both applications had some defects and would require a waiver of an informality. To rebid the project is your safest and most conservative course of action. You're not waiving anything, and you're putting it out to bid, and you probably get the same folks there, but maybe the pencil sharpened a little bit, but you're you're looking at the time frame. But the defect, as Daniel described, was the China-Israel certifications, which are required to be in the contract. And that is, from my perspective, a more minor defect, and both of them would have the same thing, so they can't really claim that against the other. But the 30 versus 40 horsepower pump is more of a material defect, where the pump is a central component of the bid, and they bid the wrong pump. So I wouldn't, I'd either say put it back out and not waive any informalities, would be my advice, or go as recommended with the waiver of the informality on the certification, but not on the bid schedule. So those are my thoughts.
Mayor, I'm still not understanding, Todd. So what's the potential litigation from one of these companies towards the city? If we okay this?
So, Mayor and Councilmember Bruner, the pump is the main, if we're talking about the recommendation, the pump is a main component of what we're putting out for bid here. And putting out a form or a schedule that's incorrect, that has a price for a 30 horsepower pump instead of the desired 40 horsepower pump, would naturally come in lower. But you can't, they need to bid the specifics that are requested on the equipment. And it's problematic if they came back later and say, oh, well, we meant to bid the other, even though our form was incorrect. And the other bidder could say, well, wait a minute, I could bid something less, and of course my price is going to be less compared to coming in second, bidding a more expensive pump for the actual price. So that's where your exposure is. Again, if you decide to just throw them both out, that's your safest course of action. It's just your time component.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we deny the bids, take it back, and clean them up and bring them back before the council again.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we put this out for rebid and do not accept the bids as stated.
Mayor, quick question.
Yes.
And, Daniel, I know you gave an approximate timeline, 5 weeks to get something in the paper. This cannot be
So no, not 5 weeks to get it in the paper. It would be, we've got 3 weeks of bidding. We have to advertise. So it'll take us a week or week and a half, especially with a holiday here, to get it in the paper. And then we have the time for them to put their bids together, which is statutory of how long we give them. And then from there, we would.
Okay, so Mayor, the 3 weeks is regulatory. That's required for a bidding process?
Yeah, so we have to put it in the paper. It has to be out there for, and we'll condense that as much as possible, but we do have some timeframes that we are required to follow per state code for bidding.
I think we can speed the process a little bit. Actually, you've already published it once. We ought to just turn around again and republish it. And if that can be done tomorrow, just as quickly as it can.
That's what I'm.
Right, and then we can actually look at the 3 weeks. You could possibly be back at the just over 4 weeks for this particular one. So we'll see. I know I'm pushing it, but I think we can do it
We will
fast.
condense it as much as possible.
Let's push.
I think so. Okay, yes.
Daniel, was any of this issue caused by our documents that were prepared?
No.
Okay, so the same documents could go back out tomorrow. That's a good thing.
They can go out once it's published in the paper again.
Okay.
Right.
But what I'm saying is addendum number 4 was fine. It's just their end that they screwed up.
Correct.
Okay.
So I guess I would encourage you to get it published in the paper, work on that tomorrow, and see if we can get it out, and then we can be done, and then we'll be scheduled really quickly after that 3 weeks is over. So we'll get the time frame shortened. Thank you. Okay, so there has been a motion on the table and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Bruner,
Yes.
Jingula,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes to rebid?
Reynolds.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So we're going to come back to the rest of the new business items after we go through the public hearing process. We're a little late getting started. Our first public hearing is actually 8.1 on the agenda, and this is to authorize Nampa Parks and Recreation to increase the proposed fees for parks, reservations, recreation programming, the Harvard Recreation Center, and the city golf courses and cemetery. And Darren, thank you for getting us started.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a routine item that we bring up every year, looking at the fees. Jennifer is going to give a short presentation, just kind of go over the Parks and Recreation fees. I think just some background that's good to know is the rec center and golf courses are funded only with fees without tax dollars. Cemetery and then parks and recreation programs are funded with both fees and tax dollars. So with that, I'll have Jennifer come up and present the fees.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for having me and allowing me to present. As Darren stated, this is an annual process that we do to review our fees and to see what fees we need to increase. Every year we look at two things. We look at our expenses and we want to make sure that our programs are, for our self-funded programs, are covering the entire cost of the program. For our other programs that are not self-funded, our goal really is to try to maintain the expenses so that we don't have to increase the subsidy. So we look at our expenses to make sure we're covering our cost. We also look at our market value, and so we take a look at what other people in the valley are charging. So included in your packet, you see a printout of what other golf courses are charging, for example. So we take that into account to see what others are charging. So we've come today with our recommendations. We are not looking to increase everything, but we are looking to increase in areas that we need to cover our expenses. The golf fees specifically, just so you know, have been reviewed and approved by our Golf Commission. So these are the approved fees that have been requested. We have the Recreation Center memberships that are going to be that we are proposing an increase there for those. And then you'll see a lot of our programs that are not required to have increases. So you'll see both throughout these. We do have our entire team here today, so if you have any questions about specific fees, we'd be happy to answer them for you and to provide you more information about those fees and why we're proposing this. We're open to questions.
Thank you. Jennifer, so let's go to Harvard Rec Center.
Yeah.
With these increases that are proposed, give me a ballpark figure as how much revenue it will bring in.
Yeah. So we estimate about $135,000 is what we would increase it. We have had an increase in our staff costs, and across the board, most of our cost of doing business has gone up. Our chlorine for our pools, our cost for all of our maintenance for our facility, that kind of thing. So we do feel like this is a needed increase in order to maintain the expenses that we've seen throughout the facility.
Okay, and also a roundabout number for the golf courses together rather than individually.
Yeah, so specifically Centennial Golf Course, we expect about a $25,000 increase. At Ridgecrest, we expect about an $85,000 increase.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mayor,
yes.
Quickly, I don't know if I'm just missing it. Did the military discount make it on for the golf courses on here?
Yeah, so that is new this year, yes. And I don't know if Tony wants to speak to that, but you will
I see it.
see they're highlighted in yellow. Mm-hmm. Military and senior discount we've added at both golf courses. That was something that was requested by our patrons last year, and so we have brought that forward this year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are there any other questions right now? Jennifer, thank you. You know, one of the things in talking to Darren, and we talk about this with the city in general, it is so challenging because I think there's some increased fee fatigue amongst our citizens. However, we have increased costs. Just utilities alone, the cost, like you said, the pool chemicals, the cost of labor, it has all changed significantly. Trying to figure out how, for example, for the rec center to be self-funding and not supported by tax dollars, while you also support the senior center. It is so hard trying to figure out how do you make it all work. And so I appreciate the efforts in trying to bridge those gaps because it isn't easy. And as one thing that we continually talk about is the additional Gen Gov funding, which they're not getting enough Gen Gov funding to even function. And we're wanting our, to stay self-sustaining at the Harvard Rec Center and the golf courses. So it's an interesting mix that is very challenging. It is not easy. And I just appreciate your work. Thank you for that. So not an easy thing. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Well, at this, we'll step into the public hearing and then we'll come back. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up to speak.
Wow. Okay, is there anyone here that would like to speak or intended to speak on the fee structure, the fee increases as proposed by the Parks Department? Okay, seeing no one.
Which one?
Raymond, did you want to?
No, I'm all in favor of it.
Okay.
Just lower the senior citizen age limit.
Okay. Okay. So with that, if there's no one here that had intended to speak and no one signed up, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, council discussion on this one.
Mayor, I'm just going to make the motion to approve the authorized Nampa Parks and Recreation to increase the proposed fees for what's listed here, all of them.
Okay, as stated in our council packet.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilman Haverfield.
Mayor, the only thing I would say is it's unfortunate that we're seeing increases across the board in a time where potentially we have an uncertain economy. But I would assume that that Parks and Rec staff, Jennifer, and has looked at being able to still be competitive in the market, in that these are some of the things that are available elsewhere. So anyway, hopefully we won't see a decline in use, but an increase, a continued increase in the uses of the facilities that we have available here in Nampa.
Thank you. And I think, I'm going to, not meaning to challenge you, but across the board, I just want to say I am looking at the Kohler Lawn fee structure. I don't think there were any increases. I think that there were a couple of increases in the fee structure, but there were a whole lot of areas that there was no increase whatsoever.
Did you see the pumpkin plunge, though?
I did see the pumpkin plunge, and if I remember correctly, I don't know where it is, it was like $15. It went from...
200%? No.
It was 200%, but it was like 5 to 15 or something. I can't remember right now. I looked at it earlier today, so.
If you're fond of pumpkin plunging, that's...
If you're fond of the pumpkin plunge, you are correct.
Mayor, we'll start a GoFundMe for the councilman down there if that's...
So he can do the pumpkin plunge. Okay. Is there any?
It's seasonal.
Thank you for your comments, though. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Angula.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you all. Okay, we're going to move to 8.2 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is a vacation of an additional 5-foot wide right-of-way easement that no longer serves a city or agency purpose. And this is in order to build an accessory building on the west side of the property at 2634 Wagon Wheel Road. This is in the Valley Ranch Estates subdivision for John Hess. Is our applicant here this evening?
Here.
He's online. Okay. Good evening, John. Could you go ahead and give us your name and your address?
John Hess, 2634 Wagon Wheel Road.
Thank you, John. Go ahead and talk to us about what you're wanting to do.
Well, I'm needing just to get an easement of 5 foot, so I can get my shop okayed, and I don't have any problems down the road. Basically, that's basically it.
Could I ask you a question? Has this come before us before?
Yes, it has. This is the second
I
go around.
recognize this picture, so,
We have made a couple of errors, I think, on both sides as far as that goes. I was of the thought that I had a closer easement than what I had when I built it. I was issued a building permit, and everything was okayed. And then we found out that it was on the easement, and so then I thought, I had talked to Daniel, and he said the best thing to do would probably be to go ahead and vacate it. And he said, yeah, that he didn't think the city would have any problem with that because we would already asked for it at one time.
okay,
You gave me 20 feet originally, and it's a 30-foot easement.
okay. Thank you for that explanation. It's appreciated. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. As you know from a public hearing, we may come back and let you have any closing comments or answer any questions in just a few minutes.
Correct. Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you so much. Thank you. Hi, Christy.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. As stated, the request before you is to vacate an additional 5 feet of this right-of-way easement at 2634 Wagon Wheel Road. There was an original vacation, which is the bottom picture that you see here, that was granted on April 17th of 2023. So the area is in subdivision surrounded by RS-owned properties. I'm going to kind of read the explanation from the engineering department. The applicant previously applied for a 20-foot wide portion of an existing 30-foot easement to make room for a new shop. The 20-foot vacation was approved. It was later found that the new shop then encroached upon the remaining 10-foot of the easement by about 5 feet. To provide more permanent resolution to this matter, engineering supports further vacation of the additional 5 feet of the remaining 10-foot easement. The building department just requires that they get all of their building permits. There weren't really any conditions of approval other than we need the legal description that identifies that additional 5 feet. The findings of fact, staff finds that all of the requirements for state code have been met. And these are your potential motions. I'll stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
So Christy, just to be clear, there'll still be a 10-foot easement along, is that the southern boundary line?
Councilman Haberfield, that is correct.
So will there be still a 5-foot easement then that goes up to along the west side? Or is?
That is
okay,
correct
so
also.
there'll still be a 5-foot and then 10-foot on the outside?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And just for my sake, that's enough of an easement to accomplish whatever is needed, whether the southern boundary utility easement or whatever, that's sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Christy? Christy, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, this is a public hearing, and it's my understanding that,
Madam Mayor, there is no one signed up for this item.
thank you. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this item? Okay, seeing no one, I would like to give the applicant an opportunity to make any closing remarks or answer any further questions. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Hess? No? Mr. Hess, do you have any comments you'd like to make as we're done?
No, other than the fact that I guess now I've got this, I can go ahead and get my electrical permit.
Well, we'll have to see what the motion is, but then you'll know in just a second, so.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. With that, I would stand.
Thank you.
I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? What is the will of the council?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve the vacation of an additional 5-foot wide right-of-way easement on the west side of the property at 2634 Wagon Wheel Road for John Hess, with the proposed findings listed in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
And Mr. Hess, now you can move forward with your electrical.
Okay, thank
Good to
you
go.
very much. Appreciate it. You guys have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, and you too. Okay, we're going to move on to 8.3 on the agenda. This is an action item, and this is the variance of Nampa City Code 1022-3B, requiring a 35-foot setback for buildings, drive aisles, and parking, and our Code 1033-4C, 3C, requiring a 15-foot landscape buffer, and Nampa City Code 10-4-5-B requiring a 20-foot berm within a fully landscaped setback of 35 feet referenced in Nampa Code 10-4-3 in order to maintain an existing landscaping boundary placed prior to the City of Nampa's recent purchase of property for right-of-way, and to confirm the property requirements and preparation for the development of the property at 0 East Franklin Road for Jackson Food Stores. Is our applicant here this evening? Yes. Thank you. Go ahead and come forward. Thank you for giving your name and address, and then you can proceed and tell us what you're trying to do.
My name's Nick Wecker. I'm with Barkhouse and Consult Engineers, and my address is 5951 West Riva Capri in Meridian, Idaho. And we're here today seeking a variance approval in advance of a subsequent conditional use permit that will also come before you as well for the development of a Jackson's food store with fuel. And the variance specifically that's being discussed this evening is to reduce the minimum 35-foot setback and 15-foot landscape buffer that would otherwise be required along East Franklin and Star Road. This property is unique in that there was landscaping that was installed along the perimeter of the site along East Franklin and Star prior to city public improvements. And we're looking to maintain that general landscape buffer as part of our improvements, but that landscape buffer that was once installed no longer meets the current landscape buffer standards for the Gateway Business District. And so we're looking to maintain that decreased width as is, supplement it with some additional trees and plantings that'll either meet the performance criteria or the planting standards of the GP zone, meet or exceed it with additional deciduous trees and plantings. And then the reduced buffer will also allow us to ensure adequate vehicle circulation for fuel delivery trucks upon project completion. And as it's noted in the staff report that will be presented, the setback would actually be met if it wasn't, there's city public improvements along East Franklin that acquire additional property than Public Works initially anticipated. For purposes of avoiding overhead power poles and utilities on the north side of the street. So Public Works ended up acquiring additional property on the south side of the street under a dedication to accommodate those improvements. And so our property line along Franklin actually tapers further to the south than originally contemplated when the landscape improvements were first installed. So as I said initially, we're not planning to change that buffer. The landscape improvements would just be supplementing that, but it would be a decreased width of about 27 feet along Franklin compared to the required 35 feet that would otherwise be required in the zoning code. And I'll be staying here for any further questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions at this time? Councilman Haverfield?
Just one quick one.
Yeah.
Are you looking at a full access there onto East Franklin that will be allowed?
Yes, we would be utilizing the existing driveway that's would be shared with, there's a multi-tenant retail building with Tin Roof Tacos and other tenants to our east. And so that driveway would be maintained and function as full access.
I didn't know if there was a plan for it eventually to be right in, right out or not.
And I don't know if there's any future planned improvements that may impact that access and the turn movements that would be allowed in the future. If there's a meeting or anything like that, I'm not familiar with that from Public Works, but I do know that our project isn't proposing to change anything with the access configuration.
Maybe our staff can speak to that then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. We'll have you back, as you just saw.
Okay.
Thank you so
All right.
much, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Rodney.
Hello, Mayor and Council. So the variance as stated, I know you're going to be shocked, but I recommended approval of this one. I felt like it met all the criteria, and I can go through this pretty quickly, but I can answer any questions if you have, but I thought he did a really good job of kind of summing up all the details. Maybe just glance quickly at the history down at the bottom. November 2007, we had a development agreement. They put the landscaping in, they did everything they should do, and then recently we purchased right-of-way, which bit into those landscaping buffers that they had already had. So pretty simple, straightforward. You know the criteria for variances. I felt like it met all the criteria. Here's the setback requirements for the zone. Nampa Building Department had several specific requirements, but they're pretty standard. The Nampa Engineering Division also had a couple of standard comments, and they referenced the widening of Franklin Road. Valley Regional Transit, we don't usually get a lot of comments from them, but this one was a unique one. They requested that a little pad be put in place for transit. And so, again, staff analysis is pretty basic. I proposed these two conditions, and the bottom one, instead of going into the details about what Valley Regional Transit requested, I just suggested that we require they work with Valley Regional Transit to provide that small concrete pad. And that is only as part of development when the building permit's pulled. Here's the findings and the conclusions, and here's a potential motion for your consideration.
Thank you, Rodney.
Yeah.
So it is your recommendation that it is approved.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mayor, Rodney, a couple of questions. It seems to me that we've seen this before, and I thought there was a shared access provided on that eastern boundary at one point, and potentially a road that would go, if you go back to the vicinity map, that there was access to the parcel to the south.
Mm-hmm.
Is that gone away? It's not a part of this?
Still there.
Yeah, that's correct. There is a access, and it does go to the parcel to the south. Daniel, I'm hoping you can help me with this. Right in, right out, or do you know?
No,
It is the shared access he referenced, though. It is
I
a
see
shared
the shared
access with
access,
that.
but I thought there was a continuation. In this site plan that I'm looking at, there's a trash enclosure that would prohibit further access to the south, but maybe that's not required any longer, since the development of that parcel to the south could be, it has full frontage on the western boundary line. But I did
Mayor,
ask about.
Councilman Haverfield, that is correct. The property to the south there was not, when this property was originally developed and that there was not an intention to have a cross-access out there. They will that southern property, the Timco property, will exit out to Star Robinson.
So can you speak at all, one of you, to, with that signalized intersection, and that's a pretty major arterial through there, having a full access that close to that intersection is the question I had.
It is certainly conceivable that in the future that those become right in, right out. We don't have anything in the plans right now that would make that change today.
To the west, though, it wouldn't be a requirement. They could, Robinson Road or whatever that is, Star Road, that would be allowed to stay as a full access.
At this point, as traffic grows and that, we will make determinations as they become, as they come to whether or not those need to be restricted, and make those changes as needed.
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, I just brought this aerial up just so you can see. I think it's, Daniel, you could help me on this, but I remember this, the property to the south, they also have that property that's fronting East Franklin Road, right up against the Duval lateral.
Yes.
And so that's another access for them, that's kind of their primary access to the south, off of Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
I just recall there was a cross-access there, at least conceptually at one time.
Yep.
I remember the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Rodney. So this is a public hearing, and
Madam Mayor, there is no one that signed up for this item.
so in that we don't have anyone signed up, is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this particular matter this evening? Yes. Go ahead and come forward. Thank you. and give us your name and address.
Mark Mitchell, 12355 Landau Way, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. My question, Randy, and excuse me, I want to say senator, that's not right, is it?
Ms. Councilman.
Not even close.
You never know.
Not even close.
Maybe when I get home.
Maybe, yeah. That's your highness.
Yeah.
What concerns me is I've seen too much construction go on here that it's not a forethought, it's an afterthought. And the roadways and stuff, the widening, the adding of a lane, i.e. the overpass by Costco. That was a cluster muck for years. And it's still, are you putting in advanced traffic for traffic, 5 years? I work out by there. That place is extremely busy out there. With that gas station going in, it's going to get even more busy. Franklin with the new interpass and all that and overpass going in, that's going to get even worse. That's my concern. It's like we think about it after and then we're spending more money to fix what should have been done in the first place. We talked about my place the other day. I'll leave that alone. But is that going into this? Is the road going to be wide enough to handle center turning lane, 2 lanes, and a right-hand turning lane as you're going north on Robinson into Star and east into Franklin? Because right now, it narrows down pretty good, guys. Are we going to leave enough room for that? That's my concern. So if it's not mapped, I would really strongly suggest you don't approve it because it's going to be a mess. Sorry, my 2 cents worth.
Mark, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So with that, we may have, after we end testimony, we may let staff come back and address that. Okay, is there anyone else here that would like to testify this evening? Seeing none, this is an opportunity. Before we have our applicant come back, I'd like staff to answer that question because the applicant always gets the last word. So, Rodney, thank you, unless Daniel wants to speak to it.
Madam Mayor, Daniel and I just talked briefly. I think it's important to remember what the request is before you. It's a variance to landscaping. It's not whether a project should be approved. If the landscaping doesn't get, the variance for the landscaping doesn't get approved, then this project could move forward. They would just have to design that new landscaping in place. So I would just caution that we don't go down the route of should this project be approved. It's already an approved use in an already approved zone. The question before you is a variance.
Rodney, thank you. And just to clarify, the reason the variance was requested was the original, it was originally put in per code, but then we actually came in and took some of that ground, and they're just asking to be able to function within what they already have and not have to scoot back again.
That's correct.
Okay. That's layman's terms. Yes, Councilman Howard.
Rodney, while you're standing there, I had a question I forgot to ask before. Was it Valley Regional Transit? Who was asking?
Yeah.
So is that meant to be that the VRT bus would stop along Franklin in that right-hand lane and then pick someone up and then continue on?
That's correct.
So they're not pulling out of that lane, they're staying in the lane of traffic then to be able to do that?
Can you speak to that, Daniel? Is that correct? I believe that's correct.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, that is correct. When the bus stops, they stop in the lane of travel and pick up and then continue on.
So that's 2 lanes. One lane would be stopped as the interior lane. This is what happened to me going by the library the other day where the VRT bus stopped and someone jumped out of that from behind it and nailed me in the side as I was going down the inside lane. So I just, having that bus be able to stop on Franklin, it would be nice if they didn't have to do that, but if that's where, I guess my question that I thought about also was, as I pivot, is was there a traffic study looking at this at one time? So the amount of traffic that'd be generated, was it in advance of that signalization going in there?
This project originally came in back in 2006 or 7.
2007.
So I would have to go back and look at what the traffic study was shown for that and approved for at that time. I don't have that right off the top of my head, though.
So as further development happens around this corner, we're going to need to be sensitive to, like what Mark said, about the amount of traffic that's being generated off onto those major arterials and how it's done in such a way that it's not problematic, especially with the VRT bus stop holding up traffic.
So I have a question. Can we go back to the conditions of approval, actually, that are requiring that for VRT?
Do we have to grant that?
Well, I don't think we do. And while I fully support the public transportation and the need for it, that may not be the right location for it.
It's not a good location at all.
They could pull in to Amazon, in off that busy road, but to have it right there on a busy road, stopping right when you turn, maybe isn't the right thing. It's a thought.
I totally agree with that.
So that may not be what would be the suggestion to deal with number 2 in conditions of approval? Okay,
Just get rid of it?
You could just get rid of it, yeah. It's
Okay.
just a request. You have the authority.
Okay,
I'd like to see that go away.
okay. Well, when you guys make a motion later. So we are still in the, we're not quite done with the public hearing. So Rodney, thank you. There is an opportunity, unless there's more questions for
Mayor?
Rodney. Yes,
Just one thought on that last point.
okay.
If the council was inclined to locate that pad for VRT, it would be a good question for the applicant to know whether they were okay with that condition or not. But if the council isn't inclined to require it or look at it, then it's really not an issue. But I'm not sure there's a good nexus between the landscaping variance and the request from VRT.
And I think, Todd, what we're hearing from the bench and the council is that they're not inclined to put that in as a condition of approval anyway. So we would
Okay, good.
remove that as a condition of approval. Does that sound good?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so unless there's any, yes.
Mayor, I do have a question for Rodney. Rodney, I know it's not part of the approval for right now, but just for transparency reasons, what was required of them for road improvements for this project?
Mayor, Councilman Jangula, so when they originally went in, they were required to, they installed the landscaping. Rodney, do you have the picture there of what's there now?
And we're talking about in 2007, correct?
Correct. Sorry, he's pulling that up So you can see there, they put in curb gutter sidewalk along there, and actually, I believe Amazon redid some of that from when they originally put things in with the Amazon project, and then we are currently under construction for the widening out to Highway 16 that is adjusting that as well.
So they don't have any additional construction going in. I was just going to request if we could have it going at the same time since it's closed right now.
They do not have, our road project will be doing all the road widening and frontage improvements that are needed at that location, and so they will not need to close Franklin again for their construction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Any other questions? Okay. This is an opportunity for Nick, our applicant, to come back and provide any closing comments or remarks that you would like to make or answer any questions that you heard posed.
Just thank you to Rodney and Daniel for their evaluation of our variance and complete presentation today. I think they've answered a lot of the questions. I'm here to answer any others that you may have. Like Rodney mentioned, this is just today is just seek a variance. We will follow public works requirements for traffic evaluation. All developments are required, to mitigate their individual impact to the roadway. So we still have to go through that process as part of our entitlement approval for the project. So that's kind of a subsequent application that would be filed. And just thank you for your time this evening.
Thank
And we accept the staff recommendation for approval and the conditions with or without the BRT condition.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Nick? See none, thank you, Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so what is this is an opportunity for council discussion and/or motion. Comments from council? Thoughts or motion?
Mayor Kling, I agree that this should be approved, but I worry about the stopping in traffic. I won't approve that, so that has to be taken out for me to approve this.
Okay, the second condition. Okay?
Yes, right.
Thank you, and Councilwoman Janula.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
just on this traffic study. So the traffic study was done in 2007. So will they have another traffic study before this goes in, or are we going off of that traffic study?
Mayor, we will have to review the existing traffic study to determine what it was approved to construct at that time. If it had a approval for a gas station with that traffic study as it was approved, they are vested for that ability to put that in. If it had a different use there and the gas station would be a higher traffic generator than was previously approved, they would have to update that and do mitigations necessary for that. So I will have to review that, and that would be handled with the building permit and is not necessarily germane to the variance request.
Okay, so that wouldn't come back before us. It would just go through you guys, but you will reevaluate to make sure.
Correct. That would happen in the building permit process, not within the public setting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Discussion? Okay, what is the will of the council?
Mayor,
Yes.
I believe, I support staff's finding as far as to approve this. So I'll move to approve the variance of NCC 10-22-3.B requiring a 35-foot setback for buildings, drive aisles, and parking. As listed in the packet, if that's okay, I can just say that, with the only condition being taken out that they provide the VRT consideration as, where was that? I lost it.
Item 2.
Yeah. To take out the Valley Regional Transit request for a standard bus stop in front of this property. I don't think that it's appropriate in this location.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any council discussion or questions?
Mayor, one more thing. Sorry, this traffic thing. So if it does come back, when will you guys review that traffic study?
We would review that with the building permit as they submit a building permit.
So
As commented, though, I want to make sure that this particular motion
Yeah.
really doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
that. I'm just thinking of the traffic in this gentleman's question, so I was just trying to figure out how we can best approach that. But I mean, he is right. It's going to continue to get more and more busy, and with it already being closed right there, I was just thinking if we could time it so that if they have improvements that need to be done, that it's done during that time as well. But I know it doesn't really have to do with this, so that's just my recommendation.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Angula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you. Okay, item 8.4 is an action item, and this is annexation and zoning to Community Business Zoning District and a potential development agreement for 0 and 0 Haley Avenue. And this is totaling 1.6 acres for Rocky Mountain Companies representing Karcher Middleton LLC. And the original concept is 2 parcels will be incorporated into a multi-building commercial retail development on the properties to the south. So is our applicant here? Good evening. Thank you for coming forward and, state your name and address.
Madam Mayor and council members, my name is Ben Millick with Rocky Mountain Companies, 350 North 9th Street, Suite 200 in Boise. So I'm here today to request approval of an annexation or rezone of a portion of our larger development. It's 1.6 acres adjacent to an already annexed and rezoned property that we own that we would add to the overall development. Does this clicker? Sorry about that. Just Rocky Mountain, at a glance, there's 15 local employees. We do a lot of development in the state of Idaho, specifically in the Treasure Valley here, similar to the development that I'm going to be discussing today. The project that I'm discussing is the northwest corner of Karcher Road and Middleton Road. It's a very heavy trafficked intersection in the city of Nampa. ITD is obviously expanding Karcher and the highway there. And as part of our project in this annexation, we'll be dedicating right-of-way along our frontage on Middleton to allow for the future Middleton improvements. So in this image, the property in question today is that rectangular pasture on the right side. It's kind of the greener area. It's been a pasture for a long, long time, and it's been for sale for a long time. And we already own both this piece and the larger piece, and we're trying to annex it to add it to the overall development. So in this image, it shows kind of our initial stage. You can see the subject property is outlined in red. It's about 1.6 acres. It's 2 parcels, and then the majority of all the other parcels are currently part of the city, rezoned BC community business. So this would be adding about 2 pads to our commercial development. And we've met with the neighbors several times throughout the process, and part of the initial infrastructure improvements that we're going to be doing are going to be adding restricted left turn on Haley and a restricted right turn on Latah Drive as requested by the neighbors. That prevents people that come to our development from turning through the neighborhood and doing a shortcut out. So it really keeps it to local traffic only. And then we're adding additional screening along those 2 residences to our west. Just some brief history. This was a residential neighborhood created in 1970, residential zoned Canyon County, but a year later they allowed commercial use on the hard corner that operated for 50 years. And then in 2014, the previous owner annexed the hard corner into the city of Nampa and rezoned it BC. And then we shortly after purchased that larger piece without the idea of developing the small parcels that we're talking about today. And as we designed the 5 acres for infrastructure and about 5 pads, we discussed more about buying those extra parcels to add it to this development. So we decided to move forward with that, and we purchased it this year. And we've started the annexation process. We went through Planning Commission, and we held our neighborhood meeting in June, had about 10 neighbors there with us. And then we were approved at Planning Commission and recommended to come to City Council. And then just thinking about the future, we already are in the permitting process of our infrastructure, and we're probably going to start construction here in December and finish by April. So all the access drives, utilities will be in for all the pads here. And then I just wanted to, a lot of people ask us what's going to go here, and we don't know all the users yet. So I just wanted to show some other developments that we've done that are similar in size and similar users that we envision to go in this development. They're all going to be individually padded users on a high trafficked highway. So similar to Eagle and Pine on Eagle Road, there's a lot of service, commercial, and retail users. There's restaurants, mortgage office, bank, car wash. Same with our development in Chinden and Linder. A car wash, a bank, a health urgent clinic, multi-tenant shops, restaurants. You're going to see this pretty similarly done here at Karcher Middleton. And then at our College Marketplace development out in Caldwell, again, gas station, health, a couple of restaurants and a bank. That's what we envision to go here. And that's my presentation. So I hope you guys approve it, and I'm open to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. Council, do you have any questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just one. You said that Haley Avenue would be restricted access, or would it be only outgoing traffic? Will there be ingoing traffic to this parcel available off of Haley?
Yeah, so this plan's a little outdated. Our access on Middleton is going to be a restricted right in, right out. So when Middleton's fully widened, there'll be a median. So that currently is a full access with Maverick across the street, but that's going to be restricted as soon as ITD improves Middleton right there. So our nearest full access point will be that Haley and Middleton Road. So if you're wanting to come to our development, going northbound on Middleton, you'll have to turn left on Haley and then turn left into our site. And then if you want to exit, you can't exit through the neighborhood. You have to exit to the main corridors.
So you're allowed access to the parcel off of Haley, but you're denied access back onto Haley, except being right only going out.
Correct.
So there will be an impact to those, well, I guess maybe the residential directly north of that intersection.
Correct.
Okay.
The idea being we want people to come in, but we don't want people to exit through the neighbors' local streets.
So other than having a sign there, well, I guess it appears maybe you have a kind of a raised little island there to restrict access to being able to turn left then?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? As you know, we will have you back after the public hearing.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Okay, this is Parker. Good evening, Parker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Parker Bodley, Planning and Zoning. The applicant did a good job covering this, so I'll be brief, I promise. So this is just the two pieces that are left unannexed in this development area. County residences to the north. This is all vacant land currently. Across Karcher is the urgent care and a church on the opposite corner, and then Maverick. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted to recommend approval in October this year. They would be subject to Title IV, for the commercial buildings. And then the fire district, this is 1 mile from Fire Station 4 with a 4-minute response time. There were engineering comments provided for you. We're currently reviewing a site improvement permit for the backbone road going through there. That permit has not been issued. We're still going back and forth with corrections. And then ITD has requested an updated traffic impact study and as far as updating that. The staff analysis, this is all in the staff report. We're stretching the commercial designation to cover these two parcels. That speaks to the definitions of neighborhood commercial, which this would fit the definition of that. And the comprehensive plan also defines compatible design, so having a visual relationship between adjacent properties, as well as incompatible being those uses that would cause environmental problems for one another. One thing to note is the two parcels to the south were annexed with a development agreement that listed right-of-way dedication that has been taken care of already, frontage improvements, and restricts the number of accesses on North Middleton. So the backbone road that we're currently reviewing meets those requirements. And we're just working out the plan details on that. The annexation and development of these parcels will utilize that same access, so nothing being added necessarily. The landscape buffer requirement is 20 feet on Karcher and Middleton and Haley, and landscaping plan will be reviewed at the time that these properties develop. The public right-of-way has been dedicated. They may require additional a chamfer at the Haley intersection. ITD has agreed to construct all the frontage improvements. The developer is responsible to reimburse ITD for the cost of those improvements. Again, site improvement is currently in review. Our comprehensive plan speaks to economic development objectives and strategies. This development would meet those objectives and strategies. Staff finds that the request meets those necessary for annexation. The owner is consented. The property is contiguous. The zoning matches the property to the south and as part of the entire development. Our code has additional restrictions as far as commercial abutting residential, such as you can't have illuminated signs adjacent to those residential uses, additional setbacks for parking, those types of things. So the uses would have to meet those requirements. And they would be making the necessary infrastructure improvements as well. Conditions of approval are those listed in the staff report motion, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Parker. Appreciate it. Good job. Okay, any questions for Parker? Yes.
Parker, the distances between Haley Avenue and this new cross-access, I assume that's in alignment with the driveway behind the Maverick. What are the distances? That it appears this parcel is only 200 feet. So does it meet our separation requirements between access points?
Mayor and Councilman, I'll defer to Daniel on that. The access on Middleton south of Haley does align with the Maverick one. Haley is existing, so there's not really much we can do about that. I think the preference is for them to line up that backbone road with the Maverick entrance.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, he is correct that per the previous development agreement that lines up there, with it being a right in, right out, the distance between Haley and that we've found acceptable.
So are we looking at this potential development of the whole corner? Or are we, tonight, we're just looking at annexation and a zoning to BC, but at some point in time, will we be looking at this whole development as far as for access off of Middleton Road, the impact on Haley? And then it appears that there's, if any access, I guess it's on the western boundary on, is that Latah Drive? That there will be access off of Karcher?
I believe that's already come before us. This project's already come before us and it's already been approved. The only thing that we're looking at tonight, because this front property is already approved and it's already been before us, but the only thing that we're doing tonight is adding the subject property as shown here to complement the front property that's already been approved with all the access points. I'll let you guys say, is that correct? Would somebody tell me? Yeah, I'm sorry. We need to-
I'm not
Sorry.
sure if I missed that evening or not, but
Yeah.
I don't remember a development coming before us on that corner, other than maybe just the zoning request, but if it's my oversight, it is. But I guess my question is just the access to the full parcel. There's two primary access points, one off of Karcher Road on the western boundary of the future commercial development, and then one that's across alignment with shared access behind Maverick. So now we're talking about an additional access off onto Haley, and I'll wait and hear what the neighbors say as far as the impact to them.
Well, we can move to public hearing right now and then we can quickly address that. Because I do have some comments just because I do remember it really well, this particular one. But any other questions for Parker? Thank you, Parker. So this is a public hearing, and
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up for this project.
so with that, we don't have anyone signed up. Is there anyone here that would like to? Yes, Mark Mitchell. Thank you. Yes, you sure do.
Mark Mitchell, and that's with a C, by the way, guys, M-A-R-C. 12355 Landau Way, Nampa, Idaho 83686. I'll look over here at this time, Darrell.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This, again, here's another section with traffic. Now, I know this is the prelim, and do I understand right that the front section that is on the corner of Karcher and Middleton is already approved? You're just looking at the back section off Haley? Okay. That's really cute music. Is the infrastructure going to be done before the buildings start going in? Do you know?
I'm sorry, Mark, just to be clear, so we can't answer questions while you're testifying, but all your questions we make note of, and that after public hearing, we'll come back and address that.
Okay. So
So the question is the infrastructure going to be done before the development comes on?
Will the lanes be widened? I mean, from 6 o'clock on, pretty much that whole section is bumper to bumper. Even on weekends, you can't get from Middleton Road to the freeway. You guys drive that? Do you guys live in Nampa? Ooh, I don't see any head shaking. You do. So if you live in Nampa, you know that that is a cluster muck. It's a nasty, nasty area. And you'll do everything to go around it. And there's just not enough on-ramps and off-ramps. So, again, here's my concern is, are we making sure infrastructure is done for the community that already lives here versus the building that needs to come in? I'm all for growth. I'm all for building. I'm in the mortgage industry. Of course I am. I understand it. But I also understand you can destroy a city with infrastructure. Nampa's been really, really good at that. And I'm getting a little tired of it. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Good job. Okay, so we'll make note and address that in just a minute. So I'm not sure where the noise is coming from. That is the.
Mayor, I think Mark requested that personally. To just.
There we go. Is there anyone else? Yes. Mr. Raymond, and yes, you will have to say your name again and your address.
Raymond Shepard, 111 North Chaparral Street, Nampa, Idaho, 83651. As a carpenter, we want to build, right? Especially projects like this, right? So I'm in favor for the project, but as a citizen of Nampa, I do understand the traffic and the infrastructure, right? We went through this in the boom in the 90s, right? Where all of a sudden we built all these housing tracts and there was no infrastructure to handle the growth in the population. And I'm kind of worried we're kind of headed there again. But but at the beginning of the meeting, we talked about $250,000 just going into a design of a project. So a little bit of education here. 28 to 33% of all construction costs happens before they even break ground, right? The design, the build, the infrastructure. When these developers, and sometimes they're out-of-state developers, I noticed it was a Karcher Middleton LLC, and they do that because they design these LLCs for each individual project, right? To hide the money and the developers and all that other kind of stuff. On developments like this, there's a major investment involved. And a lot of times when the city comes in and says, hey man, I think you need to add a traffic light. Oh, we're not going to build it then if we have to dish out another $100,000. That's really not true. Once they invest a couple tens of millions of dollars into a project such as this, right? If we ask that developer, well, you might need to widen the road a little bit here. You might need to access at a different point, right? You might need to do these things to make sure, the people that live right behind that development, I mean, they've been here for years. Those are old country homes. You're kind of screwing these people by building these developments. Again, I'm a carpenter. I want to build these developments. I just like to see it done responsibly. for the citizens of Napa. You know, by making these developers do things that benefit the community and not just their pocketbooks. You know, put some language in there too for, I don't know, apprenticeship utilization and, you know, community wealth and all that good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that intended to testify? Yes. Hi, Margie.
Hi, Margie Potter, 1811 North Cobble Way in Nampa. And I'm reading a letter that I believe you have in your packet, and I apologize for not signing up ahead of time, but I'm reading a letter for Stephanie Peters, and she confused it with the last hearing, that project that was there. So she just wants to make sure that this is on the record. Randy knows she wants to make sure stuff. Mayor Kling and City Council, I would like to make a request and have you included along with your approval regarding this item 8.4. Our private irrigation ditch for the homes on the west side of Middleton Road is right in front of, it says the northern lot, but I think it's the southern lot. They're right on the other side of that. It says, I have no idea if this is true or not. Hold on, sorry. It says, I have been told that this development plans on covering the ditch and moving the head gate to the corner of Haley and Middleton Road. I have no idea if this is true or not. What I do know is that when the Highway District or City of Nampa, whoever, did the road project at Middleton and Karcher about 6 to 8 years ago, to put in a right turn lane going west, they really screwed up our ditch and water delivery, and we had to go without water for weeks. I almost lost my pasture grass, if not for insisting they deliver truckloads of water to me. Not to mention the destruction of our ditch, causing delivery problems ever since. I am asking that you make provision in your approval that they not be allowed to work on our ditch during irrigation season. We're talking mid-April through until the first week of October. It is not only important that these rural properties be able to water our pastures and lawns, but this flood irrigation is what feeds our wells. With all the agricultural land around us that has been sucked up and developed or just not farmed, waiting for more apartments, she put that in there to taunt me, I know. They are no longer feeding water into our top aquifers and has already caused well issues here in our area. We do not want any more hardships forced on us by poor planning. We live in a desert. We have a wonderful irrigation system that is 100+ years old. Please allow us to keep access to it by making provisions for that in your approval. Thank you, Stephanie Peters, 2609 North Middleton Road, Nampa. And the rest of it, I'm not going to read. She's just thanking you for allowing me to read her letter. So.
Margie, thank you so much for bringing that forward. Thank you. Is there anyone else that had intended to testify tonight that has not had the opportunity to do so? Okay, seeing none. I think I would like us, before we move to the applicant, to address, I'd like to answer the question about the traffic on this. And Daniel, you might come forward. I don't know if this is a time, I'd like to make a comment, if I can. When this front property came forward, we had a large number of local property owners that were here. And they were very concerned about the access on this front property. And because of that, I believe wisdom prevailed with the developer, and they bought these extra parcels, and what now has been created is excellent access. And it was very intentionally done to mitigate and to respond, and I appreciate the fact that the applicant actually met with these homeowners. That speaks volumes. Otherwise, we would have had a big crowd here tonight. The fact that no one was here it speaks to the meetings that took place. the very thing that they asked for is what has been designed right here. So that they're mitigating the impact to those local, the local homeowners that are right here in the area. And so when I look at this, I'm seeing the answer to what was discussed at the first public hearing when we did approve this front property. Daniel, would you speak to what was required at the time of the front property being developed?
So they have done a traffic study on the property and identified the mitigations that are required. The majority of those mitigations are things that will be constructed with ITD's project, with the developer funding them. So they have coordinated with ITD to help alleviate the construction timing issues and that. And so ITD is working on their project. I believe they're having it out to bid the very start of next year is the schedule I'm hearing at the moment for this section. They have already removed the trees that were out there that prevented the city and the state from widening Middleton Road farther than we did when our construction went in a few years ago when we did that intersection. Those were hysterical trees, and so we were not allowed to do anything with them because there was federal money involved. But as the developer, they were able to take those out.
And you said historical, is that correct?
Yeah, I was like gonna
Sorry,
make a joke and then I withheld.
I just wanted to make sure. Historical trees?
No, I think I probably said hysterical, but I meant historical. So
Thank you.
Yes. And so those improvements are designed and being done with the state's project. The exact timing of the construction and their construction here, that still has yet to be worked out. You may want to talk to the developer on his timing for actual buildings and going vertical and that type of stuff. And so that is something that with the state doing those construction, it's not something we would want them to go in and construct ahead of the state coming in, just because of the difficulties that would cause and additional closures that would be necessary to do that. And so from a staff perspective, the cleanest and most efficient way to do it is to have it done with that state project. The access is what has been agreed to in the previous approach. Prior to this subject property coming in, that access to Haley was going to have to be farther to the west and would encroach farther into the neighborhood and potentially encourage more traffic through the neighborhood. This brings it closer out to Middleton and minimizes that impact to the existing neighborhood.
Thank you so much. And then, Crystal, do you know the funding, the ITD, and the timing on some of the funding for these projects when they're anticipated to be out there?
So, Mayor, this is the widening of Karcher State Highway 55 is part of the Leading Idaho initiatives money, so that's state money. And they have funding already for construction approved, I believe, from Farmway to Middleton Road for the expansion.
That's what I was thinking. So we're talking immediate. It's not like umpteen years out.
Yeah, no,
so which is great.
Their
It's
anticipation would be
programmed now.
bidding spring, I think, is what we're hearing at this point.
I think they're purchasing right away right now.
Yeah, great alignment as far as the timing of that. Okay. Any other questions for Daniel? Councilman Haverfield.
So Daniel, can you speak to the, what will be happening on Middleton Road as far as road improvements, frontage improvements?
So as part of the original development agreement for the property there to the south that's already in, there are curb gutter sidewalk road widening that's required to happen there. And so
So how many lanes will there be on Middleton Road then?
I believe it's been a month or two since I've reviewed those plans from the state. I believe it's a 5-lane section and may have a dedicated right, so there may be 6 lanes through there at that section right there at the intersection, and then it tapers back to the 2-lane as you get back up to Haley and north.
So, so at the access point, which the cross alignment with the Maverick, that will be 6 lanes below that on the southbound?
That may be 5 lanes in that section. The right turn lane, I don't know where that would, exactly where that would start, but that would be a right in, right out entrance. There will be a median there that will restrict left turns at that
So
approach.
will this project require the median to be put in?
That is going to be put in with the state's project that they will be constructing, yes.
Okay, so the state's improvements, are they going to terminate at Haley, or are they going to continue on to the boulevard?
No, it will terminate there at Haley.
Okay. And Mayor, again, I recall this coming before us as far as a zoning request, but I don't recall any vertical development or any proposed development as far as on the lower section yet. Haven't seen that. I'm just a visual person, so.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, so what came before previously was, I believe there was a DA mod, or was there just a rezone request that was not approved, and the existing commercial zoning has been there longer than anyone on this council, I believe.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the property on the other side of the street.
Surprise.
Mayor, Councilman, what you probably remember was about a year or so ago, there was a conditional use permit with the DA mod for multifamily. It was
Right.
denied.
That spurred a lot of, obviously, angst.
Yeah.
Any other
Call that.
questions for Daniel? Okay. So this, at the end of the public hearing, is the opportunity for the applicant to come forward and make any closing remarks. And so, Ben, how do you pronounce your last name?
Millick?
Millick, okay.
Yeah. So I failed to mention a few things regarding the infrastructure and traffic. Daniel did a great job discussing the ITD improvements that are going from Farmway to Middleton, and then they threw us a little curveball a couple months ago that said
Could
they
I ask,
wanted-
I'm going to interrupt. Could you pull that mic up? Thank you so much.
So yeah,
Thank you.
originally ITD was just going to improve Karcher Road because that's their right of way. But a couple months ago, they approached us and said they wanted to improve Middleton going north to Haley to complete that intersection because it's a critical widening of Middleton right there versus us doing all this traffic signal work. It really puts ITD in control of that roadway network. But on the local roads, Latah and Haley, as part of this annexation, the city is also taking over those up along our frontage. So where our property ends to Middleton along Haley, and where our property ends to Karcher on Latah. So as part of that, we are actually rebuilding Haley Ave and Latah Drive to be city standard versus Canyon County standard. So those roadways will be rebuilt almost entirely. And then on our side, we'll have curb, gutter, sidewalk, and landscaping per city standard. So those roads will be improved as well.
Thank
And
you for
then
sharing that.
I think there was, Ms. Peters had a question on the irrigation. I just wanted to address that. As part of our infrastructure permitting for our site development permit, we're also pursuing a permit with Pioneer Irrigation District to redo this irrigation main. And it's very critical that we do this during the off-season. They will not allow us to do any work past, April 1st. So we're really aware of the irrigation concerns, and we have to make sure every person that has a right to irrigation water maintains their right. So as part of the permitting through Pioneer, we're making sure we do it right and correct.
Any other comments?
That's all I have. I appreciate your guys' time.
Mayor,
So questions?
just clarification. Did you say you're going to be rebuilding the full width of Haley and Latah?
Correct.
Okay.
We're not going to be putting in the curb gutter sidewalk on the opposite
Right,
side
but you're gonna improve the full width of the road
along our
as far
frontage.
as
Yeah.
your frontage.
Yep.
That's nice. Thank you.
It is. Any other questions for our applicant? See none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions for the applicant, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're on to council discussion.
Mayor, quick question for Parker. Parker, did you say that the project across the street was denied? I thought that we denied it and then approved it.
I was approved.
Yeah, it was approved. Did I
The
hear that
con-
wrong?
Yes, it was this, I'll let you explain
Mayor
this.
and
Thank you.
Councilwoman, you're referring to the one across Middleton, right behind
Correct.
Maverick?
Correct.
That one was approved.
Okay, okay, thank you.
What I was saying is the one that's on this property, a multifamily project came in a year or so ago that was denied.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Mayor,
Any other questions?
wasn't
Yes,
there
or
another
discuss-
parcel further to the west that was denied as well? For a
That's correct.
multifamily, yeah. We've seen this area.
Yeah.
A few times. Okay, any discussion? I have to say, you know what, I said it earlier, but as I saw this, and remembering the discussion and the number of citizens that came out, we had a lot of citizens here that were very concerned. And to see the mitigation and the communication and the fact that they're not here testifying against this is pretty amazing. I see Margie shaking her head yes, because you probably remember it. There were so many here at the first time, so that speaks volumes. So, okay, so what is the will of the council?
Well, Mayor, I'll move to approve the annexation and zoning to BC Community Business Zoning District for 0 and 0 Haley Avenue, 2 parcels totaling 1.66 for Rocky Mountain Company representing Karcher Middleton LLC, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
I will second that, and thank you, Mr. Millick, for working with the citizens. Yep.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, do we need to add the verbiage about the irrigation in there, or is that just self-explanatory?
I think, Daniel?
That is something that we can deal with on the plan review side of things. It's not something that's necessary as a condition.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Hammerfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, there you go. So that concludes our public hearings this evening. We're going to go back to new business items. And we're going to begin with new business item 7.7 on the agenda. Thank you for the testimony tonight, by the way, and the impromptu. Thank you. We are listening, by the way, just in case you think not. Good points that were made. Okay, item 7.7 on the agenda is an action item, and this is to authorize the mayor to sign a lease agreement between the City of Nampa and the Hispanic Foundation for office space located at 315 Stampede Drive. So there is a document that has been placed before you. This document has been reviewed by legal. The thought here and the intent is to lease office space to the Hispanic Foundation. And they have received a grant from the Minority Business Development Agency Capital Readiness Program. And the grant is to provide technical assistance for entrepreneurs starting or scaling their businesses, very similar to the SBDC, which is that new business startup and entrepreneurial. The difference is the Hispanic Foundation will not be housing the businesses. They just provide the sessions to train. As they are looking, and this is a new grant that they have secured, as they are looking to find office space, they have asked if they could be in office space there at the former Hispanic Cultural Center at 315 Stampede Drive. I guess I've brought it forward to the council as a recommendation because I feel like it aligns with the original mission of the building. And so with that, to provide training and for business startup, which is the economic side, we've got a lot of other uses of the building that we're excited to move forward with. I will say the rental agreement that you have before you is not totally, there will be a little bit more discussion. It needs approval from the foundation board. I don't anticipate any significant changes. However, there could be some minor changes to this agreement, so it would have to be approved through legal before it actually gets finalized. So I would ask the council what would be the will of the council, and I see two questions.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you.
How many square feet is Suite 217 and 218 total?
I wish I could answer that question. I do not know.
Consider that my question as well.
Thank you.
And then I was wondering how the rents were determined. Was it based on square feet? So that was a follow-up to that.
You know what? It wasn't exactly based on square feet. We do have the other small office space that has been rented, and the downstairs office space, and I don't remember off the top of my head, I think that was $800 to $900 a month. Some of the smaller ones are more like $500 a month. This, they're offering $3,000 a month for the larger office space, and it is a larger office space.
The reason,
and we could pause and go back to square footage if that's the desire of the council.
I think we need to have some kind of a baseline so that it's fair across the board.
Yep.
And it's not a triple net lease, but it should certainly have a square foot number tied to it somewhere so that everybody's kind of on the same rate, unless it was a premium space in the building that would require more. And then also with their lease, are they doing any kind of tenant improvement, or are we allowing any dollars for tenant improvement?
No, we are not.
Okay.
Councilman Haverfield.
I too was going to ask the question as far as on area being defined, but we'll be needing that information as far as I think included in this document. But it talks about the use of common areas as well. Who is going to be the one that's going to be in control of determining who's using the common areas as we start filling this up with multiple tenants? The use of those areas will be at a premium. So we need to, who's going to be the one responsible? The landlord is listed, but who is going to be the landlord's representative?
Right. So as far as the landlord's representative, the common space being the break room and the conference room.
There's conference rooms, yeah.
And conference room. The other room that is listed in here is up for discussion a little bit. Which is I gotta find the name of it. It's the lecture hall, right? But the conference room is what, when we hire the person that's going to be overseeing this, that's the person that would be managing that, but we would need to be maintaining that break room space and the conference room because that is shared space for anyone using the building. Could use that conference room, and the break room would be open to any other tenant in the building.
Because it states that that's without additional charge. So
Correct.
I think the tenant rates need to be reflective on us being able to get compensation to offset the expense of maintaining those areas that are at no additional cost.
I fully agree with you. And the lecture hall area actually is open for rented space. So that's why I say that particular comment needs to be considered. We need to have further discussion around the use of the lecture hall. But I appreciate, and I'm fine if we need to postpone this and have further discussion and bring it back. I have no problem with that.
More definition.
Or you can.
Madam Mayor, and just a clerical, I think on number 4, it says tenant shall remit to landlord a deposit in the amount of $3,000, and then it says $6,000 in parentheses. So they just don't match.
Go with the 6. If you
Yeah, go with the 6.
Thank you for catching that, because the first time I read through this, I didn't think it said that. So thank you. That's a good catch.
Mayor, I move that we table this for the next
Bring it
council
forward
meeting.
at the next council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we table it and bring it back to the next meeting. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you for that input. I really appreciate it, and we will proceed and come back. So the next item on the agenda was to authorize the staff to purchase tables and chairs for the multipurpose building at 315 Stampede Drive with a not-to-exceed total of $17,000. Before you on the bench are some numbers of chairs, the price point on some chairs, and pricing we've received from, I'm going to say Lifetime is the vendor on this particular one. We have visited with the Ford Idaho Center and Andrew to get an idea of the chairs that they purchase and their pricing, considerably more expensive. When we look at the warranty and the specs with the chairs, felt like these might be an appropriate chair. with any further research, if we chose to go with a different chair, if there's a recommendation for a better chair, we're certainly happy to look at that. But I would just ask for the authorization to go ahead and purchase chairs. We are currently borrowing chairs, and we've had some breakage recently, and we feel like for safety purposes, it's very important we go ahead and get chairs purchased and get in that building for liability purposes. So, yes.
So these will be tables and chairs that are just provided, or will they be for rental use?
Right now, with the price point in renting the room, it comes equipped with
that.
tables and chairs. And so at the rental price, and this is for the downstairs multi-purpose room.
Okay, not the upstairs.
Correct. This is just for the downstairs multi-purpose room. These are rounds, and then the chairs, and then a couple of rectangular tables that we need for serving space. Yeah.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve this to not exceed $17,000 for the purchase of tables and chairs.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Kingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The next item is also an item, and this is to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution creating a committee to serve as in an advisory capacity to the city council on the utilization of the building located at 315 Stampede Drive. There is a resolution before you. I know you haven't had the opportunity to review this. I think I would be very open if the council would like to review this and give input, and we bring this to the next meeting. I'd be happy to put it on pause, and because you haven't had the opportunity to review it. So I think I would almost recommend that we just push this to the next meeting, but that you review and then get back to me with any corrections or additions to this document.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we move this item to the next council meeting for approval. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Kingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Our last new business item this evening is an action item, and this is to accept the Canyon County canvassed election results for the November 7, 2023 elections.
So moved.
Is that for your election?
Second.
You're going to make the motion? We're up for election.
Absolutely, she should make that motion.
That's the quickest you've ever.
Good for
Get
you.
it done.
Yes. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Okay.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Kingula?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
You know, out of clear conscience, I've got to go back because I forgot to mention something on item 7.8. And Doug's probably wondering why I didn't. The purchase of the tables for the former Hispanic Cultural Building is not authorized in the budget. It will have to be addressed as a budget amendment. So just because we currently don't, but Doug, would you like to communicate what that funding will be in the budget amendment?
We have reserved in the budget capital that is more than ample to cover this. We have, as if you recall, the last year, the budget we reserved, when we finished the budget, we had $936,000 of undesignated funding, and we set that aside for future use. This would be one of those uses.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay. So that concludes our new business items. We do have one unfinished business item, I believe, and it's item 9.1. This is an action item. It's the first reading of ordinance of the City of Nampa confirming the assessment role for the local improvement district number 168. It is requested, after it's being read, it's requested to be passed under suspension of rules.
Ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, confirming the assessment role for local improvement district number 168.
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to adopt the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Kingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
That concludes our regular business. I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061C, which is to acquire an interest in real property not owned by a public agency.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Kingula?
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So we will be meeting in here, which means you guys are going to have to leave, but I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your feedback. We welcome it and appreciate it. Thank you. And you're welcome to talk if you want to. I mean, you're welcome to say a word. Well, thank you, Mark. Bye, Sharon and Dave. Good night, guys.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
She doesn't get those very often.
Mayor, this might be the wrong time, but